In other words, coaching this teacher on proven methods to push her agenda, but to stay under the radar.
Yeah.
Immediately after...
Yeah, because it's not only the teacher. It's not only that one teacher. I've been seeing a lot of people yelling and arguing with each other about the so-called Don't Say Gay bill, or what in actuality it is called the Parental Rights and Education bill. The bill reads, classroom instruction by school personnel or third parties on sexual orientation or gender identity may not occur in kindergarten through grade 3, or in a manner that is not age appropriate or developmentally appropriate for students in accordance with state standards. So that makes sense to me, having young children, kindergarten through third grade. It doesn't necessarily seem like they would be prepared, and they don't have the life experience to have these types of conversations anyway. So when you're having these conversations with them, you would be introducing them to a lot of concepts that they're not familiar with anyway, and now you're familiarizing them with these concepts, and who knows what exactly and how exactly that's going to affect their development as they go make themselves upstanding citizens, as we all try to be. People for the bill say that, yeah, you don't want your children being talked to about sexual stuff. Yeah, of course. And then the opposing to that is that it is going to make LGBTQ students less likely to come out and make them feel like they're not welcome here. They're being taught things that are against what they are. Now, for me, this makes a whole lot of sense. This is super basic. I would have thought that you don't have to explain this to too many people, because it's like, yeah, okay, well, even a little past third grade, it's still questionable. But kindergarten to third grade, that's pretty reasonable. Why do you want to fight on that? I don't understand people wanting to fight on the Hill to talk to other people's children about sexuality. Like, that's weird. That's weird to me. But with that being said, there's a video where moms of third graders voice out opinions regarding a teacher who pushes gender orientation studies. Now, this is literally what that bill is trying to prohibit. It is trying to stop these types of situations from happening, but yet it did happen, and now we're going to hear how some of the mothers of these children who had gender orientation studies pushed onto their children, we will see how they feel about the situation.
I'm sorry, are we doing Bible studies in classrooms? No, we're not, right? So why is this a certain agenda being pushed?
First of all, great point. She's already on it. Yeah. If you're taking Jesus and the Bible out and you're replacing it with, I don't care what the ideology is, don't replace it. Keep it, just don't replace it. You don't need to replace it. But it seems like they replaced it with a different ideology. And now we're starting to see a bunch of different ideologies all over the place. But we'll stick with this one for now.
Into the classrooms. I'm here to bring awareness to the emails that had surfaced earlier this month. The one I find most disturbing of all is of a third grade teacher trying to talk about sex with 8-year-old students.
Red flags, anyone? Any red flags? Anyone? Any red flags? Any red flags at all?
They're 8-year-old children that she is trying to hold a sexual orientation class with. A parent shared their concern and their objection to it and pulled their kid out. And instead of this teacher being concerned of what she did wrong, she goes to a district employee and asks for ways of how she can continue to teach sexual orientation to her third grade class. You guys...
Now, obviously, this teacher has her own ideology and she wants to spread that. And now, I don't think that she's a bad person for wanting to be more open and honest about things. And I mean, I don't think it's a bad thing to teach people about all of the pronouns and gender neutral trans thing, all the complicated things that are going on today in today's society. Obviously, they're great for people to have a conversation with, but how productive is that conversation when you're having it with an 8-year-old?
Want us to believe that this isn't a propaganda, that no agenda is being held?
it is most definitely propaganda. Well, we know this by now, right? Like is that even a question? I just get annoyed because people are coming out and they're like, "Wow, this is propaganda." It's like, we see it all over the place. It's not that obvious to you? Is it really not that obvious to people? Do people really not see this crap? Like they don't even get it? Yeah, they took your Bible away and then they replaced it. What'd they replace it with? I don't want to tell you, but I'll tell the children.
This wasn't just any sexuality class. This was specifically designed 3 days a week. She taught LGBTQ curriculum in her.
Right. So now she's not even just talking about sexuality. She's talking about LGBTQ and all of the things that are being pushed now. So they are trying to say that it is not propaganda. Of course, it's not propaganda. But yet you see a lot of these same, like a lot of the same type of information, a lot of the same type of things are starting to be put out there. And are they new concepts? Are these new concepts, or do they?
Class. It raises the question, how many of those students are excelling in that classroom? Is everybody in that class getting A's in math, English, grammar, social studies? That we can dedicate 3 days a week to teach 8-year-olds about sexual orientation?
That's a pretty good point. I mean, that's a pretty good point. That's a pretty good point. I mean, you are sending children to school to learn the basics. We got to at least get them the basics. Learn to read, write, count, all of these things. The sexuality stuff is obviously not on the hierarchy of values when it comes to survival.
I don't care what kind of sex is being discussed. The word sexuality, nudity, does not belong in the ears in a classroom of 8-year-old kids. And when a parent showed their concern, what does this teacher do? Completely disregards and goes behind the parent's back trying to find ways of how to continue these lesson plans.
And that's the thing that parents are dealing with now. They're trying to protect their children's thoughts from being polluted too much with too many different ideas, especially concepts that they're going to have a hard time grasping.
The level of disrespect that has been shown to Christian conservative parents.
That's actually a really good point because, though I'm culturally a Christian, I'm not literally a Christian, practicing, I would say. But I'm Christian. I'm Christian. But it is funny to see how easy it is for people to jump on people's religions, and they want to crap on people's religions. But yet, all of these different ideological points are coming up, taking the replace of certain religions, or taking the place of maybe some spiritual feelings. Maybe it's not replacing religion as a whole, but people are finding that they do need some type of something. Just something. I don't know if it's religion, spirituality, something to just focus your energy towards. Whatever it is, this teacher is very motivated, and that's what you're dealing with. You have to deal with a whole bunch of teachers now who are ideologically possessed, who have their ideas on what they think the world should be and how the world should be, and they're going to teach your children that. They don't have bad intentions. That's the problem, though. You can fight people who have bad intentions very easily. But if people don't have bad intentions and they really think that they're doing the right thing for you, how do you handle that? It seems like these mothers are handling it pretty well and letting them know that, like, hey, this isn't cool at all.
Is becoming very obvious. It's like all of a sudden, just because we don't fit the agenda, we don't fit within the parameters of the agenda that's being pushed, we're being disregarded and pushed to the side. We're not talking about having people excluded. We're talking about the level of uncomfortability that some parents are experiencing, and that's important. Because if you...
That is important, because you do want your students, you do want the parents of your students to be comfortable with them learning at your school so that we can all be okay, right?
Guys want to talk about including all, listening to all, every student matters. Our kids matter too. And we don't want those subjects being...
Right, but they don't want to listen. They're not going to listen to you because they have an ideology they need to push. And these people are obviously in the school systems. They're in certain corporate companies. They're in certain... they're all over the place, guys. They're all over the place. It's such an interesting divide people have nowadays.
taught to children who are just 8 years old. And the topics get worse and worse, and the subjects get more detailed. And I'm sorry, are we doing Bible studies in classrooms? No, we're not, right? So why is this a certain agenda being pushed into the classrooms?
Why? Why? Now, why would they be pushing this agenda? Why? What are the reasons why? Let's ask ourselves the reasons why they would be pushing these types of ideologies. Why would they? And why would they be pushing the church out? Why would they want to push the church out but then introduce new ideologies that you don't even know how a society would react with all of these ideas? They're just trying to supplanting these ideas, thinking that everything's going to be so much better. We know. Trust us. We know. But nobody really knows. Nobody really knows. And that's the hard thing about it. You have to get through people's hubris.
If we don't take a stand and we don't share our voice, they're just going to sweep this under the rug. Why should a parent overhear her 8-year-old kid being taught about sex?
Mrs. Tiber says, "Good morning, Sally and Craig. As you know, I teach 3rd grade. Today I talked to my class about LGBTQ Pride Month and played 2 short videos from YouTube that were geared toward kids. A parent who heard the lesson and discussion made her daughter leave the Zoom and texted me asking when I was done discussing sexual orientation so that she can let her kids back onto Zoom. I was planning..."
Wow. So a teacher heard, or a parent heard them talking about it and took them away and was like, "Hey, when you're done talking about all this sex stuff, I'll put my kids back in there." But they were doing it on Zoom too. How ballsy! I was sitting here imagining that she was just doing it in the classroom, but I forgot Zoom, of course.
"I'm doing more lessons tomorrow and Wednesday, but now I'm afraid to." After sending the email, Mrs. Tiber received a response from Mr. Craig Lewis, part of district staff, that said, "Do not be concerned or afraid. Your principal should support you, as I know that our district, including Vivian, does," end quote.
So now, of course, the school employees are going to be backing each other up, opposed to the students. When everybody should be working together. Everyone should be working together, or at least you would think.
This district staffer goes even further and gives more media recommendations to the teacher, but says to steer clear of content that says sexual or coming out, since it may raise red flags. In other words, coaching this teacher on proven methods to push her agenda, but to stay under the radar.
Yeah.
Immediately after...
Yeah, because it's not only the teacher. It's not only that one teacher. It's not only that one teacher.
Release of this email chain, the parents at Jefferson Elementary who have had Ms. Tiber as their child's teacher reached out to the principal and demanded answers. Why is gender and sexuality issues being taught to 8-year-olds to begin with? With the tremendous loss of learning our children experienced the past 2 years, coupled with the already dismal reading and math performance scores of public schools, why are teachers taking away precious learning time to push their own political and social agendas? In what realm should 8-year-olds be discussing topics around transgenderism, lesbian, gay, queer, and coming out? Words which were repeated many times in these videos. As a parent, I demand an investigation into this matter, the teacher, and the district as a whole. The lid has been flipped, and the level of systemic indoctrination is abhorrent.
Systemic indoctrination. Systemic indoctrination. Now, there is systemic indoctrination, and I have been seeing it with family members who have children, and a lot of their children are learning a whole lot of what used to be considered inappropriate stuff, but now it's all out there in the open. It's all being pushed out there very easily for people to get. And there are a lot of motivations that people say that people have for wanting to push these ideologies. At the end of the day, these people who are the people who are pushing these types of ideologies, who want to talk to your babies about sex, if they're talking to your babies about sex, you probably need to get them away from them as far as possible. I don't understand people who are comfortable talking to children that young about sexual matters that people don't even understand when they're 18, let alone 25, let alone in their 30s. Life's complicated. Life is complicated. And it's already complicated enough for a 3rd grader trying to learn how the world works, and now you're going to throw all of these different ideologies around at them? God, I don't know, man. I don't know. I agree with the moms. I'm 100% with the moms. And I'm going to say this anytime we cover any type of subject that does cover children, always protect your young.